are here today to talk about Pop XG. It's our newest color addition to the Paul Mitchell Professional Color family. When I say pop and I'm referring to color, what I visualize is something bright, vibrant, that catches your eye and turns heads the moment you walk in the door, which is exactly what our newest color does. So this lovely gal here is using Pop XG to create our Cara cut and color. We are going to recreate this today on our beautiful model, Sarah. Say hi, Sarah.
Hi.
And this is our lovely camera woman, Lisa, who will be assisting us as soon as I set this down. So we have her sectioned out. We're getting ready to start our... Okay, so we are going to begin with our Cara cut. I have Sarah pre-sectioned off into 10 separate 1-inch sections. They're vertical sections, and they have a slight banana shape to them. So you want to add a slight curve to follow along with the curve of the head. So we are going to take our first section. We're starting at the recess, the natural recess. We're going to step in front of our guests, pull the section out, and cut our starting of our perimeter length, just straight across. Our next section we'll take in a vertical, and creating that slight curve with our fingers, we'll create our guideline. You can see how that just falls nice and natural due to the sectioning and the finger placement. So we'll take our next section and pull that out. We're going to over direct to the first section. So I'm standing in front of my guest again, cut that section, drop down, and go vertical. All of our following sections will be cut in the same manner. All of them over directed to that very first section, using the same elevation so that we get a nice even cut. The goal of this cut is to help maintain length in the back. So by over directing, the hair gradually gets longer as we move towards the back of the head. So we'll move around in this sectioning, over directing towards the left side until we reach the center back. We pre-lightened Sarah. As you can see from her before picture, she had some dark pieces in there and she had some roots that needed to be retouched. So we went ahead and went through and did a platinum card retouch. So for that, differently than we would do our normal platinum card, I just went through retouching her root area with dual purpose lightener, one level scoop to 2 ounces of 20 volume cream developer, and applied that to her regrowth. Still taking 1/8 of an inch sections, applying to the regrowth and applying a small foil to help maintain the moisture so it doesn't dry out and stop processing, and to help create a little bit of heat so that it processes. So we went ahead and processed that. It only took about 20 minutes because she lightens really nicely. You can see that as we get to this back part, we are starting to run out of hair that's pulling up to the front, and that's perfectly fine. That's what we're going for. It means that we are actually maintaining that length that we were going for in the beginning. So we processed that at room temperature for 20 minutes, and then I color balanced her to remove the residual pieces. I didn't want to go through and platinum card her entire head because she already had so many blonde pieces in there that I didn't want to process more than necessary. But we do need to lift up to a level 9-10 in order to achieve the optimum results with Pop XG. All of the colors except for red, Bordeaux, and orange need to be pulled up to at least a level 9 or 10 before application to get the proper tone and finished end result. With the red, Bordeaux, and orange, you can pull up to a level 8 because that orange base will actually give you more longevity to your color. So going for the right base color before you start your application is really key. So we finished the first half of her head. We're going to go ahead and move over to the other side. I'm going to drop this first section down take a little section from my other side as my guide, going from the recess in the hair. Step in front of my guess and cut straight across. And then again, when we switch over to this side, it's a little harder to get that same angle. So I'm going to cut from the bottom up, kind of point cutting to get that right angle, being as I'm right-handed. We all have that one side that is a little harder for us to cut in that front fringe. For me, it's that side. So, cutting, and we're going to continue this side just like we did on the other side, over directing to that front section until we reach the center back again. Continue in this pattern all the way around her head, and then we'll get her blow dried and we're ready to start our color application. Okay. Mixed up our 3 colors that we're going to use in this technique. This is our base color, which is 2 ounces of the Pop XG Teal, 2 ounces of Pop XG Green, and a 1/2 ounce of the Pop XG Midnight. Midnight is a really nice dark color that we use a lot as an additive to our other colors to give them more depth. So this is going to be a slightly darker version of our next color, which is our Kelly Green, which is equal parts 2 ounces each of the Pop XG Green and Teal. And then our third color, which is 2 ounces of the Pop XG Yellow. That one's nice and easy to mix. So we have our plastic already torn so that we can section off our areas. I'm going to take some color block and apply it around my guest's hairline. This is not only going to create a barrier to protect her skin from getting stained from our color, but it will also create a nice starting point where I can attach my first piece of plastic. So Pop XG comes in 13 vibrant colors, and including clear, which you can use, or diluter, which you can use to dilute your colors. Though we do suggest that when you are trying to create a pastel, that you use one of our conditioners instead, so that you don't dilute the amount of color in there. So we're going to start our color process with our emerald green. That's the one that has with our base color, which is the emerald green, and that's the one that contains the midnight. We're going to go down next into our Kelly Green, taking this section in thirds, and then we'll do the yellow. So as you see, I'm crossing to make sure I roll the hair and it's good and saturated. I'll then go ahead and pull through some to make sure the colors meld nicely. And then we'll apply our plastic. I'm going to go ahead and drop down this next section on the right hand side and do that as well. And that is just to help me ensure that I am doing the same pattern on both sides. I've found from personal experience that if I go all the way up one side of the head and then start on the other side, I have a hard time deciphering where I started transitioning into my other pattern. So we're going to go starting from the nape up 3 sections in this pattern of the emerald, Kelly, and then yellow. And then once we get to that section, or once we get through those 3 sections, we will alternate our pattern. So can you go ahead and look down for me, please? Perfect. So when doing this, you want to make sure that you're taking nice small sections, lifting up to make sure that you saturate all the way through the section. It has a really nice creamy consistency, so it's easy to assume that you're going to be able to just saturate through thicker sections, but you want to really make sure that you're taking small sections, because we don't want any holidays hiding in the hair once we get through all of this color application and have to go back and do it over again. So, small section right there. Keeping my sections even from side to side. Again, doing the sections one right next to each other really helps me keep my sectioning similar. So throughout this entire process, all of our base is going to be the emerald green. That's the one variable that doesn't change in this color application. So that's our section number 2. The nice thing about using the plastic is that you can see the previous section, so you know exactly what you did. When you're ready to switch sections or switch your pattern and alternate, you really know which section you're working on without having to open up a foil and find out what you did on that last one. Sometimes I get talking a bit too much and forget what I was doing. The plastic helps me keep it on track. So that was our third one on this side. We'll go ahead and drop down in the section over here and do our third. After this third panel in our first pattern, we're going to switch over and we're going to do the emerald green, yellow, and then the Kelly green. And we're going to do that for 2 sections. We do it for 3 sections right at the base because that very first section is usually pretty thin, fine hair, and we wanted to make sure that we get enough of this pattern to really start our color pattern. And we then transition to 2 sections because the hair gets thicker as we move through the head. As we go up the head, we will typically run into a place where we have some longer hair through the middle, and then you can go ahead and alternate and do 5 instead of the 3, and that will then you don't have to have really big blocks of color. It'll really mesh well together. So this one is our emerald green base, and now we're going to go into the yellow. With this color, I've really found that the bleeding, especially when rinsing, is very minimal. So I learned from my first experience with it when I tried this technique the first time that if you don't really kind of mesh and blend in, kind of feather in those sections, you will have lines where you transition from color to color, which is awesome, because not the lines aren't awesome, but the fact that it doesn't bleed onto each other, because you really in the end up with all 3 colors being very noticeable as their own individual colors instead of it all just meshing into a big blob of green. So there's that. And like I said, on this one, we're going to be doing just the 2 sections. So I'll take the tail end of my comb or my brush and just kind of run that through there to really blur that line so we don't end up with a line in our finished product. We're taking horizontal sectioning, and that's just because of the way the natural hair fall is. We want to work with the natural hair fall so that when it all dries, it lays very naturally over each other, and you can kind of see as you're placing the color where it's going to live on the head. So I especially love the creamy consistency of Pop XG. It goes on so nice and smooth. I don't know if you can tell from the video, but it's thick enough that you can use it with a brush, but it's has this nice slip to it that really helps you let it travel further so that you can really saturate that hair and get nice even coverage. So we're finishing up our second section of our second pattern, and after this we will then switch back to our original pattern for 2 more sections, and we'll continue that way all the way up to the top high point apex part of the head. Into the part of Sarah's hair where it's getting a little bit longer and my sections are getting a little bigger than I would like them to be, because I'm really going for evenness from the original 3 sections. So I'm going to switch and start doing 5 sections in each quadrant, so that I can get more of that evenness. So my last section was the emerald green, yellow, and then the Kelly green, and I did 2 of those. So now I'm going to switch to the emerald green and then the Kelly green and yellow. So I'll go down. Now I'm going to switch to my yellow, and then I'll do Kelly green and yellow again. Even when I start adding and I have more than my 3 sections, I still want to end with the original color that I would have ended with. So had this just been 3 colors in this panel, 3 sections in this panel, I would have done the emerald green, Kelly green, yellow, and ended with the yellow. So I want to make sure that I have my Kelly green and yellow and still end with yellow, even though I'm doing 5. So I just wanted to show you that. We'll be probably working in 5s till about, I don't know, the lower crown of her hair, and then it'll start getting a little bit shorter pieces again from her previous cut, and we'll probably transition back into 3s at that point. But I wanted to show you how we do the 5 sections and why we suggest doing odd numbers, because we have the 3 colors. We want to stick with an odd number so that we end with the same color. On up to the apex of the head, we now just have our front 2 sections. So I want to show you how we're going to incorporate our sides. Now that we've finished this taking horizontal sections, we're going to start on the sides taking thin vertical sections. We're going to take our sections, pull them back away from our guest's face, and continue in the same pattern. So my last one I did was the emerald green followed by the Kelly green. So I'm going to switch it for these ones. So we're going to do the emerald green, yellow, and then the Kelly green. By over directing it and pulling it back away from the face, not only does it make for a nice clean application and is more comfortable for your guests, but it will also help it so that you don't have stripes in the hair when it falls in its natural fall once it's styled. And then we'll put this, I'm going to apply it just right at the bottom part of the emerald green section so that we don't have too much overlap for me to have to mess with as I pull back the second section. Because this is a direct dye, anything it touches, it will stain. So you want to make sure that as you're going through, you've protected your guests sufficiently. They have a cape on, their arms are underneath the cape, their clothing is protected, and you've applied color block barrier cream to their neck and ears especially. So there's no developer in this because it is a direct dye. So the timing of it isn't as important as when in your application. This product sitting on here for longer isn't going to do anything different than this product sitting on here, but you do want to make sure that you let it set at room temperature for the full 30-minute processing time. This process is at room temperature, and putting it under heat will not affect your outcome or the vibrancy of your color. So we don't recommend putting this under heat. So now that I did 2 sections with the yellow as my second color, I'll switch back to my Kelly green. The big thing to remember on this is that is the pattern in which you went. You want to make sure that you end with the same pattern. They don't have to be identical, right? We're looking for sisters, not necessarily twins, but they look alike, but not quite exactly the same, which gives it a lot of movement and makes it feel more organic anyway. So all of these sections, because of the haircut, having the front fringe, are going to be our 3 colors. We're not going to be doing any 5 panels in this. We're laying our film down between each one. Even though we're doing 2 sections of the same pattern, they will vary slightly in, you know, how far down the yellow or the emerald or the Kelly green goes, and that helps it feel a little more organic as well. So we don't want to skip any steps and taking both sections and applying them without putting any of our plastic in between them. In the same pattern, and then we'll do the other side, and we will process at room temperature for 30 minutes. Here we go. We have our finished color all blown out and styled. Isn't it gorgeous? Do you love it, Sarah?
I love it.
It goes so fantastic with your skin tone too. So to finish her, once we were done processing for the full 30 minutes at room temperature, I took her back to the wash house and we shampooed her with Paul Mitchell Post Color shampoo. And we did that even though it's a direct dye, so it doesn't have any oxidative agents in it, like the hydrogen peroxide. It still should be completely rinsed clean, and the Post Color shampoo really helps completely cleanse all of the additional product out and having it bleed onto her clothes or her linens, because we left residual color in there, not using a shampoo that cleansed all of it out. I then conditioned her with Paul Mitchell the Detangler, and I chose Paul Mitchell the Detangler because it has a low pH of 3. So it helps close down that cuticle and really trap that color in there so that her color will last longer. And then once we finished with that, we came back here. I prepped her for her hairstyle with Quick Slip, which is a blow dry cream. So it gave me a nice creamy consistency. I could run it through her hair, help me comb through it after shampooing, and then it also helps speed up blow dry time, because you can't really tell, but she has a massive amount of hair. Once we got it completely blow dried, I went through with my smoothing iron. It's a smoothing iron, not a flat iron. We learned that, right? Because everybody wants smooth hair, nobody wants flat hair. Utilizing hot off the press, Paul Mitchell's Thermal Protection Hairspray. No one that sits in my chair that tells me that they regularly utilize hot tools leaves my salon without taking home a hot off the press. Not only does it protect against the thermal damage from hot tools, it also creates a humidity resistant barrier, so the style will last for her, because she's hoping to wear this to work tomorrow, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
So to finish her off, just to give her a little more hold, I finished with the Paul Mitchell Extra Body Firm Hold Finishing Spray. I love this because it has a super fine mist, and it comes out nice and dry and adds a lot of body to the hair while still holding the hairstyle in place. We went ahead and did flat curls with our smoothing iron, just taking each section, going through, flipping our smoothing iron 180 degrees and pulling slowly to create our nice curled look. And there you have it. It's beautifully blended. So much detail in the placement of the color. You can see that all of it is really nice and uniform, and it looks amazing. She's going to get definitely the attention when she walks in the door at work tomorrow morning, and that's what we're looking for, a pop. So you can walk in and with your pop hairstyle and hair color be the center of attention wherever you go. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I look forward to seeing what you guys do with your Pop XG. Take this technique, this application technique, and utilize it with any Paul Mitchell color. It doesn't have to be bright pop colors. It could be the color XG and done in some beautiful reds or chocolates. There's so much you can do with this technique. Pop XG just really is a powerful way of showing the placement and how beautiful and dimensional this color is. So don't forget to tag Paul Mitchell, hashtag Paul Mitchell USA, and show us your work. Thank you. Have a nice day.